Good day. Welcome back to my channel. All right. So last week I did an unboxing of the Monogram F8 Crusader. So this is going to be a slightly different video for me. This one's a little bit longer, but it's also the full build, assembly, paint, the whole 9 yards. So this is everything from start to finish. Um, I don't normally do it this way. I'm trying something new, and so let's see how this one works out. Essentially, I'm going to walk through the steps. They're going to be really high level. This is a Monogram kit. It's an old kit. So yeah. You know what? Let's just roll the credits and get right into it. Alright, like all aircraft, you start in the cockpit, and like all ancient model kits, this cockpit's pretty simplistic. I didn't go all out. I just went ahead. I did some shading, dry brushing, highlighting, and that actually brought it up okay. I didn't go for any of the resin add-ons or anything that you could, even if you could find them. I'm not really sure it'd be worth it, at least not for me. Then go ahead and put the fuselage together. I mean, it's like bang, bang. There's really only a few parts on this kit. So you get to, this actually goes together fairly well. I know I taped it, but it went together quickly. These little scoops, these go over the engine. I don't know what they are, but they're supposed to be intakes. They will intake air, but because they're flat, it didn't look right. So I went ahead, I took my Dremel and I hollowed those out. So when I actually put that on, it'll look more right. I won't have to paint the tip of it. It'll look better. The other thing I noticed is the tail hook. It has this huge gap behind it. I know, again, old Monogram kit, and I know it's on the bottom, but really this gigantic hole. So what I ended up doing was getting some thin plastic card sheet. I put a piece of sprue under, behind it to give me something that I could grab onto to put the thing in place with. Glued it, and so once I got that set up, I went ahead and put that inside the fuselage so that when the tail hook goes on, at least it's covered, right? There isn't just this giant gap. And then I was just putting the wing pieces together. They went together very well for this age of a kit, so I was kind of happy with it. All right, so we've gotten this far, which is almost, well, the assembly's almost done. It's a very 1980s Monogram kit. The detail is okay. There's some things that are meh. I'm also unfamiliar with this aircraft, which is interesting, right? I am not going to make this super accurate. I'm not going to super detail. This one's sort of a fun. It's sort of a fun one. It's meant to. It'll sit next to a couple of much more in-depth builds, I suspect, but I'm really not looking to take it too deep. I'm getting ready to get it ready for painting, so I can mask these, but it's going to be difficult because it's hard to find. It's going to be hard to find those edges. So I suspect what I may want to do is put them in place and then just rubber mask all of it and then hairy brush it when I'm done. I am not going to have this open, so I'm not going to have it, with the canopy up. The detail in the cockpit just isn't, like I said, I'm going mostly out of the box. The cockpit will look okay. When I get the canopy on it, it'll be all right. There's some things that are somewhat baffling. I need to clean up this bottom seam a little bit more, and then I can go ahead and move on. So, but I've got, basically the last bits I've got to do. I'm not going to do the bombs because that's a Marine Corps version, and I'm doing this as VF-84, which is a Navy plane. I have to do this part, get those put on, have to paint that. Once I get that put in, drop it on, and then that's it. Putting these together, it was a little disconcerting trying to figure them out, But, oh, one part that was really baffling was this. It says make 6, and it says put them together. Take a look at this picture. Right? So that was these on the sprue. That was these things on the sprue. No. There's only 2 of them on a side, so not 6, 4. So I'm guessing these are instructions from a previous kit that looked differently and they cut and pasted funny. Making this was a little bit interesting, you know, so that it takes a little bit to realize what the orientation was in there, but I got it. And then, like I said, I'm pretty much to the point where it's time to pretty much get going to painting. Now, what I'm going to do is leave these into gross disassemble. So there's this piece. I have all that done. I will have the tailplanes. I'm also going to put them off because they rotate. You know, they pretty much stand off from, and the whole thing moves, right? And I might as well just leave it off so that I can get at it. So I'll leave those off. I'll paint this separately, and I will also put the tires and so forth on last. So, oh, and the door. So the door covers, those go on. I'll put those on last as well because it'll just be easier to mask all of that off and then paint them. So I'm gonna go ahead and get cracked in on that. All right, so with the painting done, it's time to do the transfers. A couple things about the painting. I know that my gray is dark for what it should be. It's what I had. The gray that I had was way too light. The other gray I had was way too light. So, I'm not entering this into a competition where it will be graded on the Pantone color. So, yeah. This one also is sort of a mule. I want to play around with working on the transfers, and then I want to tinker around with some of the weathering for it. So this is more of a, just practice technique kind of thing. So those folks who are Crusader aficionados that happen to stumble upon this video, sorry. I'm aware that it's not 100% accurate, or maybe even 80% accurate, but I'm running with what I got. I'm just enjoying the build. A couple things. I know a lot of pictures have this the steel color back here. I did find one of the pictures I'm working off of has the paint scheme go all the way back to the tail. So this one, right? So I'm going to use that, and I'm kind of working with that and the transfer sheet that came with these, and I'm sort of winging it. I also have not glued this in place, and I really kind of don't need to because it's, the actual aircraft, this whole thing would rotate. So I'm not going to have to worry about hiding a seam, and this will actually make putting the transfers on easier. I will put the doors on later because they're going to be in the way. So I'm going to break stuff off. It's just how my fingers work. Also, with that said, doing the transfers. So the guide is sort of vague-ish. I am used to having transfers numbered so you know which one's which and you put them in place. This doesn't have that. You're pretty much eyeballing it. Now, you should be able to, but I know me. I'd find a way to muck this up. So I will very patiently be working my way through this and knocking this out. Yeah, it's like the bare metal for the exhaust cone, right? But like I said, in that one picture, I see that it's not. I'm just going to run with it. Another couple things. So here, right, your intake, you have this really cool flaming thing. Now the cool thing is this all the carrier film has all of these in one. So, I'm going to do all the ones around this, and then I'll go back and put that on. But it also calls for these. So I have to put this on, then I go back and put these on top of it. I'm kind of wondering why they weren't all just printed together, but what do I know? Anyway, with that said, I'll be combining this with this sheet because these are the ones that are, so these pieces are not in this sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and put the transfers on. I'm not going to video it, partly because the video camera gets in my way. I still haven't figured out how to do that. And also partly because just putting on transfers, everybody does it. It's get the transfer wet, put it on, hit it with set, you're good. There's like 5 billion really excellent modelers out there that do that and have some how-tos are far better than I am. So this is just me stumbling along. So I'm going to go and get to that, and we'll get those put on, and I'll be back. All right, after fighting with the transfers, I've let it cure for a day, and they're looking better than I anticipated. Well, looking better than it looked like they were going to be. I feel like there's still going to be some touch-ups, like spots there where they didn't really fit. So I did find that some of these transfers really didn't fit. And I don't know if it's because they were made for a different model kit or whatever. But like these, right? These are the ones for those fins. They didn't fit, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to be creative, and we're going to paint those by hand with a color that's mostly matching, and wing it. So we're going to adapt. Also had a real challenge with the one on the nose, but that one ended up going down okay. Again, the markings for the side, blah 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 details. Yeah, overall, like I said, this is going to be something of a mule. I'm going to play around with it. It's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't look bad. It's got a decent representation. Drop the wing in here just to give a look, see how that looks with that in there, right? So, the colors look great, right? The paint scheme looks fantastic, even though I know that my gray is too dark and transfers don't match, etc., etc. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish those, do those lower wing pieces by hand. Then it'll be time to seal it and move on to the weathering. So, all right. So what I needed to do was create a way to make the lines straight, which basically that's what I'm using the tweezers for, and that'll create a guideline by which I can just follow my paintbrush. Now it's difficult for me to get a good angle here, so you can kind of see how I'm working. It just gets that line in, and then I can go back with the hairy brush and just follow it. So I just go right down the wings doing exactly that. After that little adventure, ready to start weathering. I'm actually so I really have not been liking this kit until just about now. The colors have come together, and I kind of like the way it looks now. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the weathering. You see I still have these fins are easily removable, and I'm leaving them that way because there's part of the markings are where it scratches because they elevate up and down. I also have this come off so I can weather this separately, so it'll make just getting to this whole thing that much easier. These aren't perfect, but they will do for what I'm after. Considering I had to wing it, I am content with that. So now it's just time to go ahead and hit it with oils, and it'll be the basic oil weathering that I do. So we'll get into that, and then we might be getting close to finished with this one. I'm kind of impressed. All right, as I always do, Um, I'm going to use the MIG oil rushers. I'm also going to use this new stuff. Well, new to me. This is the AK grime, and here I'll hold it up. Right, this is dark weathering wash. There's also an oil streaking grime that I'm going to use, and I'd seen some folks use this stuff, and I really struggle, right? Because I've watched them put it on, let it dry, and then wipe it right off, like no problems. And for me, it just doesn't do that. Once I put this on, if it dries out, um, I could take a sandblaster to get this stuff off, and I can't get it off. So there is something I am clearly doing wrong. So what I'm doing here is doing it early, like I'm painting it on and then wiping it almost immediately off. Now the oil brushes I can let go for a bit, and that actually gives me more of what I want. It works the way I like it. It's the way I'm used to, right? So this is the weathering grime, and this is it. Within moments, when this stuff dries, it's just really a struggle to get off. So I go back and give it, basically I go back and have to just, I get creative with this. Now, I mentioned that this was something of a mule, and well, it is, but I'm learning, right? And that's what I'm doing here is I'm using this plane as something to learn on. The kit itself is no, it's no dragon kit. But it's fun, and it overall looks nice. Now here I'm using the MIG light sand oil brush. Now this is something, it's is really, really bright, and I found this when I was doing one of my other models, and this gives a really nice fade highlight. So instead of doing color modulation, using this, and also not using pigment. So this is the first time I've done paint fading not using pigments, and I actually like the way this comes out, and it does it on this gray. It works well on this gray, so I will be practicing this on other subjects, but I do like the way that when this fades out, right, I go in, use this soft brush to fade it, and then using a light brush with this towel, it just gives this nice little weathered fading look, including to the transfers and to the overall color of the wing, and you can see that there. And then the last bit to do is just get the canopy masking off and then put the overall pieces together. Getting the canopy masking off, this stuff is great, but it's also a pain in the butt to get off. But just with a little bit of patience, pull off the frisket and then clean up the edges, and then it's pretty well good to go. That the Crusader's done. So I did not fight my way through this one like I could have on it and on a few others. But what I did do is I kind of practiced some techniques. And this is sort of one of three, right? So this is one of a series. I want to do the VF84 for for an F4 and for the F14. So I thought it would be neat to go ahead and do a plane that I really haven't seen much of, and it's also kind of a neat subject for me to have. So I went ahead and did it. The transfers were miserable to work with. Let me rephrase. They didn't fit, and it was just not really pleasant. Um, so I did, like I said, I had painted those by hand. They don't look great, but they look okay for where they will be. This is not going to go to a model kit show, so I am not going to get ripped apart by the judges. I'll simply let you guys who are watching rip it apart. Feel free, because I know it is what it is. But it was fun, right? It was fun to do, and honestly, looking at it now, I like it. So the color scheme is actually pretty kind of striking. The reds and golds and blacks. It actually is a pretty striking color scheme. And sitting at arm's length on the bench, it'll look good. Well, I won't mind it. I did try to use, and I showed this earlier, but I did try to use these AK paints. Now I saw a couple folks online using these things, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but they put these things on, let them dry, and they just were wiping them right off. And I'm not. I mean, I couldn't wipe them right off. I had to go back in with spirits to get them sort of wiped off. So I went back to using, and honestly, I didn't think I would like these things when I got them. Where is it? Here we go. With these make oil brushers. I'm not a fan of pre-mades, I guess. I like using oil, which is what I did for a lot of it. And you can see underneath for the wings that was more of a dry brush. But the oil, these things I can work with, and even when they dry, they clear off easily. These things didn't, and I don't know. It's I guess it's what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So I will try again on another subject, but you know I struggled with this one. Overall, like I said, it was an old kit. A lot of, it left some to be desired. But for what it was and for how it went together, no, I didn't go get a bunch of aftermarket to kick the cockpit up. I didn't get the only thing I really did was get the transfers for the markings I wanted. But yeah, it was an interesting experience, and I'm not displeased. I just definitely know that there's more I could do or could have done, but overall, I am content. And this will be a nice one shot, a nice little palette cleanser for before I rip into the F14 and the F4. Not sure which one of those is going to be first, but that will be, the two that will go next to this, kind of like I did with my Soviet armor series, kind of like the idea of the VF-84 aircraft series, all in 1/48 scale. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and put up a couple of pictures. Thank you very much for watching. Again, please feel free, throw in suggestions, hints, queries down below. Again, I just ask you to keep them respectful. And I hope that this series this one was moderately entertaining. Until next time, thank you much for watching. Happy modeling.